Hi guys, here we are back again. So, we're talking about the claim that sentences are comprised of phrases. In other words, when you have a sentence like, John read the book. It's not the case that this sentence, John read the book, which we all recognize and realize is a possible sentence in English, is something without internal structure. In other words, it's just comprised of the words John and read and the and book. We realize that there are certain words that go together in terms of their meaning in this sentence. So for example, if you look at the book, it looks like the is telling you information about which book we're talking about. So in other words, we say that the is modifying book and thus forms a phrase with book. So the idea is that sentences are comprised of units that we call phrases. And constituents is just another way to say a phrase. It means exactly the same thing. So the constituent structure of a sentence is the same thing as the phrase structure of a sentence. So the idea that we have about deciding what are the phrases of a given sentence is that there are certain linguistic processes that only apply to phrases. They do not apply to a string of words that's not a constituent. In other words, if we want to know in a given sentence if a given string of words is a phrase or not, we can apply these three tests and they will indicate to us whether in fact we have a phrase or not. So let's see how that will work. Let's look first at the example that we looked at in lecture. So the sentence that was discussed in the lecture is I like the blueberry bagel. So when you have the sentence, I like the blueberry bagel, we're thinking about how is it that these words come together to form the meaning that we get in the whole sentence, I like the blueberry bagel. And so in particular, we could look at the string of words, the blueberry bagel. And we could ask, is that a phrase? And it would seem to make sense that that would be a phrase because if you think of the meaning of the sentence, the blueberry bagel is the object of the verb like, is the thing that is liked by me. So we might expect that that would be a natural type of phrase to have in a sentence. And what we want to do is we want to have tests that will verify for us that that is indeed the case. So in the text we talked about 3 different tests that we can do to know whether for sure you have a phrase. The first test that we talked about was movement. So the movement test is taking the string of words, taking the constituent that you're asking the question about, is this a phrase, and moving it to the front of the sentence. So you take the string of words, exactly only that string of words. That's really, really, really important. Only that string of words, and you move it to the front of the sentence. If it's possible to do that, then you have a phrase because the idea is that only phrases can be moved. If you can undergo movement, you must be a phrase. So for example, if we have the blueberry bagel and we're asking whether that is in fact a phrase, we can move it to the front and we'll have the sentence, the blueberry bagel I like. So for example, if you are in a bakery and someone is asking you which bagel do you like, and you say something like the blueberry bagel I like, that would be something felicitous to say in that context, and it seems to be an acceptable sentence. Notice that it puts a focus on the blueberry bagel. The information that gets moved to the front is in focus, so we're emphasizing that part of the meaning of the sentence. And what we observe is that if we have a unit of words that is not a phrase, it is not possible to have that type of movement. So for example, if we were to take just the words the blueberry and not the whole phrase, the blueberry bagel, and move it to the front of the sentence, we would have the blueberry I like bagel. And so if you imagine being in a store, in a bakery, and saying this, it now seems like a very strange sentence to say, as opposed to the blueberry bagel I like. The blueberry I like bagel doesn't mean I like the blueberry bagel. It seems like a sentence of English that would be very strange if we heard somebody say it, and we probably would never produce a sentence like that. So we say that this sentence is unacceptable, and we mark that with a star at the beginning of the sentence.